Welcome, I'm Lynn Long, Mayor, City of Fort Oglethorpe, and I got a very special guest with us today. Glenn Davis, been with the Fort Oglethorpe Fire Department for 41 years. He's the man with the plan. As the weather gets colder, we think about, and we don't want to think about it, but we've got to think about it, fire safety. People, where they put their portable heaters and kerosene heaters and Christmas trees and things like that. Let me introduce Glenn Davis. Glenn.
Hello, how you doing?
Oh, joy to the world. Good to have you here.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're a member of a very good fire department.
Yes. We've been fighting fires since probably 1951 when we were first incorporated in the city of Fort Oglethorpe, and we've got better and better here in the last probably since about 2006, 2007. We've ended up as mainly a paid fire department. Most of our people are part-time. We've got some full-time, and there are very few volunteers that we've got.
I've rode a few fire engines in my day years and years ago, and it was true volunteer then. The world has changed.
Well, it has. I mean, like I say again, I started in 1973, and it was pure volunteer up until about 2000, which we were able to hire 2 full-time people. And from those 2 full-time people, we grew within about 6 or 7 years to having a full part-time fire department staff that runs. We've got 2 stations in which we turn around and do operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
But to get an ISO 3, you've got to do those things, do you not?
Yeah. It's based a lot on the amount of equipment you got, the amount of manpower you got, the training, the water system. It's all bundled up into a lot of different things to turn around and do it. Not that we can't do better, but we have done a fantastic job, and we're as good, if not better, than most of them in the area.
As it gets colder, and people use kerosene heaters and portable heaters and things like that, Glenn, what do they need to do to protect themselves? Okay,
well, nowadays portable heaters are a lot better than they used to be. First thing that I would tell people to do is if your heater is over 10 or 15 years old, I would replace it with one of the newer ones. The new heaters have all designed for safety. If they get turned over, they'll automatically shut off. If they get too hot, they'll automatically shut off. So we want those safety aspects built into what is there. The old heaters we got do not completely do that. They turn around and just can overheat very easily. They'll stay running if they get turned on, and a lot of the cords and everything that came with those heaters are not there. So some of the main things you need to turn around and do is you need to read the manufacturer's instructions when you get a heater. Make sure it's UL listed or it's a listed designed heater for what you're using it for. Follow the instructions. If the instructions tell you to keep things 3 foot away from it combustible wise, then that's exactly what you need to do. I mean, it's been tested at that, and that's exactly what's going to be turned around and saved. Never leave a heater unintended or an unplugged heaters when they're not in use. You don't need to turn around and leave them plugged in. I tell people the same thing with extension cords. If you're not using them, unplug them. You won't have a problem with an unplugged extension cord. You might have a problem with one that's plugged in, and the same thing with the heaters. Don't use a power strip with an extension cord. You need with an electric heater. You need to plug an electric heater straight into the wall. Doesn't need to be used an extension cord or power strip with it. The next thing I would say is don't run cords underneath combustible stuff. And when I'm saying combustible stuff, I'm more or less meaning under rugs or mats or even under sofas. I mean, you've only got 3 or 4 inches under a sofa, which is now running it under a coffee table, which has got an area, the wood's not going to possibly catch on fire like the batting and stuff on on something like that. Again, keep everything at least 3 foot away from it. That's what the manufacturer's instructions most likely are going to tell you, and that's what we suggest is keep at least all combustibles at least 3 foot away from a heater, especially to the front of it. Inspect your heater periodically to make sure that you don't have frayed cords, that the animals hadn't chewed on them that you've got in your house, that your kids have not played with them, that the cords just not got so old it's got brittle and stuff. We need to make sure it's safe and make sure that the heater itself is working properly. If it quits working properly, then you're going to turn around and have a problem with it. Keep portable heaters away from small children. We don't want small children to get close to them to where they can turn around and get burned in them. You've got to be very careful with portable heaters when it comes to kids.
Kerosene heaters, is there many kerosene heaters in use today?
There's not as many as there used to be, and kerosene heaters are the same as electric to an extent. You want to make sure that you do not fill a kerosene heater in the house. Always take it outside, fill it up. Do not fill it in the house. You need to yearly, before you use them, you need to turn around and take and have them serviced. Make sure they get a new wick in them and they're clean and everything. Make sure you're using the proper kerosene. There are several different types of kerosene, as much as do not use gas or diesel in one. We have had several houses that have blown up because people have gone and accidentally put the wrong fuel in their can, and then when they got back put it in their heater. And we've had houses blow up. Now it's been probably 20 or 30 years ago, but we have had houses that have blown up because somebody lit a kerosene heater that actually had gasoline in it. You need to turn around and follow the manufacturer's instructions again on them to make sure about your cleaning process, your storing process, and what to do with it in that. Again, portable heaters always need to be kept on a level spot. Don't set them on something that's going to be unstable. We don't want to take a chance on them falling over and stuff like that. Even if you've got a heater that has the switches on it that will shut itself down if it turns over anything. The grills and stuff where the heat's coming out is still going to be warm, and it's going to take a little while for that heat to turn around and go away, to dissipate out. So we need to make sure that that's turned around and done. And again, in any house, whether you've got heaters or not, but specifically if you've got heaters, you need to make sure that you've got carbon monoxide testers in there, because anything that's unburned in the way of fuels or anything like that does put out carbon monoxide, and we want to make sure that your house doesn't get full of carbon monoxide, and have working smoke alarms.
Let me ask you a question. We talked briefly about smoke alarms. How effective are smoke alarms? And I cannot imagine somebody going to sleep without a smoke alarm.
Okay, a smoke alarm is your first defense in a house if you have a house fire, for letting you know that you have a house fire. Smoke alarms are not really designed to turn around and warn you of a house fire when you're awake in the house. Yes, they will if it's on a different level of the house that you're in, but that's not what they're designed for. Smoke alarms are designed to turn around and get you up when you're not when you're asleep and not noticing the fires. Smoke alarms are required to be now when new houses are built. They're required to have 110 volt smoke detectors with a battery backup, and they got to be connected together. You're required to have a smoke detector in each bedroom, in the common area outside each bedroom, and at least one on each floor. And that's to turn around, and if a smoke detector goes off anywhere in the house, it'll wake you up if there's one in each bedroom. And they're connected all together to where if one goes off, then they all sound. That's what the smoke detectors that are in new houses are supposed to do.
Smoke alarms are fantastic, and when my kids were growing up, my wife was cooking breakfast, the smoke alarm went off, they knew breakfast was ready.
Well, there's two different types of smoke alarms out there, and I'm not going to try to go into how they're designed or anything like that, but the sensitivity part of them and everything, they have tried to design them to where they're not going to give you false alarms. That it's going to be for smoke stuff and not for just plain old cooking stuff or steam when you open a dishwasher or stuff like that. I mean, they used to turn around and do that, and the ones that are out there now don't. The newer ones that are out now, rather than having a 9-volt battery in them that are just battery backed up, they've actually got a 10-year sealed battery in them. So you can't take the battery out of them, and the battery will be good for up to 10 years.
And then you just throw it away.
You just throw it away and replace it. Those smoke alarms are designed to be good for 10 years. A regular smoke alarm you've got in your house is only designed for 6 or 8 years. You should replace it every 6 or 8 years anyway, because the sensitivity of it goes away.
If you've got an old smoke alarm that you got to put batteries in, and I do, and I didn't realize they had sealed battery smoke alarms now. How often should you change the batteries in your smoke alarm?
Well, again, we tell everybody every 6 months. We tell everybody, and there's 2 different ways of going about it. We tell everybody that they need to change their batteries when the time changes. That's what you and I realize, and that's what the adults will realize on it. When it comes to kids, you can tell kids when they get a holiday in which candy is involved. And when candy is involved is Easter and Halloween.
Yeah.
Those are about the time that time changes. So we turn around and tell kids, if it's time for a holiday in which you get candy, that's when you need to change your batteries. So they can remember that better. But you and I will remember when the time changes.
To most people, and it would be real easy for somebody to forget to change a battery. Do most people remember to do that?
I'm not going to say they don't, but there is an impression that batteries don't get changed as often as they need to be. I've got some figures right here that turns around and says that of the amount of deaths that they turned around and had between 2007 and 2011, that 24% of the house fires, or 25% of the house fires, so 1 in 4 of the house fires that they had smoke detectors, the smoke detectors did not work. And it was because they either had a dead battery or the battery was missing in them.
You know, that's sad where a life is wasted because of a 9-volt battery.
Yeah. Yeah, and they do have there's statistics out there that turn around and say that 37% of all house fires that we have nowadays, or should I say the deaths we have in house fires, did not have smoke detectors in the houses. So possibly that 37% could have been saved if they'd had smoke detectors in their houses. Again, in the instructions of a smoke detector, it'll tell you to change the batteries on it once a year. We suggest changing them twice a year. That way you can guarantee that it's getting changed.
I used to change mine, and I didn't realize the recommendation was twice a year. I change them every year at Christmas time, once a year. And in fact, I bought batteries the other day to change in my smoke alarms. And when my kids were growing up, and I was on the fire department then, we always had a place to go outside so everybody could gather, so somebody would not be left in the house in the event that there was a fire. Would you like to?
Yeah, we teach fire prevention to kids constantly. We've got Fire Prevention Week is in October, and I turn around and go to all the middle schools and all the elementary schools and primary schools to talk about fire prevention with the kids. We also have got a fire prevention trailer in which we go to events with, and which we can turn around and take kids and adults inside and turn around and teach them about fire safety. Not only fire safety, but kitchen safety and smoke alarms and everything else. But one of the biggest things we turn around and try to teach is what we call EDITH, which is exit drills within the home. We turn around and try to make sure that they know when they're in bed exactly what they need to do in case they have a fire. They can turn around and get out of, if the smoke alarm goes off, they get out of bed and they get down low, that they have 2 ways out of their room, which means one of them needs to be the door, the other one needs to be another door or a window or something. So the window has to be working, it has to be available. They have to be able to open it up so that they can turn around and go to the door. We tell them not to open the door, that they need to sleep with their bedroom doors closed, not to open the door, put their back of their hand on the door and feel of it. If the door is warm, then don't go that way. If the door is cold, then they can turn around and go that way. But if the door is warm, don't go that way. Go to their second way out. They need to be able to get out. If they're on the second floor, they need an escape ladder or something like that. But once they get out of the house and get to a safe point, we want them to go to what is called a meeting place. Mm-hmm. And a meeting place is going to be a place in which all the family comes together to count heads and make sure that everybody's out. Now, when you establish a meeting place, you don't want to establish a meeting place that is just a car or something like that. You want it to be something that's going to be there all the time. Your mailbox, a big tree, a tree or something like that. But you need to establish a place in which everybody can go to and is there all the time so that they can get out. Once that happens, then someone needs to turn around and call the fire department, which is usually your 911, mm-hmm. and turn around and advise them not only what you've got, but that everybody's out of the house and where the fire is, and tell them nobody's going back in. And you need to turn around and follow all that, and you'll be just as safe as you possibly can.
You know, if people have not seen the trailer that you're talking about and seen the program, the fire prevention program that the fire department mm-hmm. puts on, they really, truly need to see it. And we used to practice, you know, mm-hmm. with our kids when they were small. My kids are all grown and old now, but, you know, there's been a lot of lives lost because people didn't know where to go, and they would think somebody's in the house and go back in, but later to find out that person was out and somebody went back in and lost their life looking for the party that was already out.
Definitely, and unfortunately we've had people that have gone after pets before.
There was a case a couple of years ago in Fort Oglethorpe, I think.
Yeah, we've lost people because of pets before too. So yes, we need to make sure that the smoke alarms are working. Everybody gets down low, and the reason you get down low is because smoke rises, mm-hmm. so the top of the room could be full of smoke. The good air is going to be down on the floor, so you need to be down on the floor where it's low. Crawl to safety, have a meeting place, and then make sure you call 911 and advise them what's going on so that they can get us en route.
Glenn Davis, I appreciate you being here today. And your fire department, volunteer fire department, or it's not the volunteer anymore, there's not many volunteers, but it's a fantastic life-saving organization. And by being an ISO 3, the things that you do to get that kind of rating, you don't realize unless you just understand how much you save on your, and I'm not supposed to say doggone, but on your doggone fire insurance and your homeowner's policy, but it really will save you money and save your life.
Well, unfortunately, we know that the fire department is a cost to the city and a cost to the homeowners and everything like that. What's the cost for saving a life? As much as you want it to turn around and be. Mm-hmm. That's a good thing. But we turn around and have to do the best we can to turn around with what we got to make sure that the citizens say safety. The only way that we can turn around and pay back to the city by finance-wise is to have a good ISO rating to where your insurance will be as low as it possibly can. So this is how we're able to give back. But to give back, we've got to have the proper equipment, the proper manpower, and the proper stuff to turn around and get a good rating to be able to give back to the citizens.
And skilled people like you.
Well, I started when I was 15 years old. You know, I don't know whether it became a calling or not. I was in Scouts. I had just got out of Scouts. We tried to start an Explorer Post, which is Scouts. Didn't have enough people to start the Explorer Post, and I stayed there with the fire department. So between Scouts when I was 7 years old and the fire department, those two things have been my whole life. I've been the fire marshal since October of 2000. So I've been the fire marshal here in the city for the last 14 years last month, and I hope to be here until I retire, which is probably about another 10 years down the road.
Glenn, I thank you for the job you do, and I know the citizens do, the city, we thank you. From the mayor's office, we really thank you, and the volunteer fire department. Not volunteer anymore. That's the Fort Oglethorpe Fire Department for the job well done, the job that you do.
Okay, well, and two, you know, we've got a good fire chief. And our fire chief, I'm the fire marshal, we've got a good fire chief, and our fire chief is the one that leads us in the right directions. And we know he's not going to be there forever, and we hope we just can turn around and keep having good people at the department to keep it growing.
He keeps getting older because I have rode on the back of a fire engine with him. So many, many moons ago, and so. But Glenn, thank you very much for being with us.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thanks everybody for tuning us in, and listen to what Glenn has said. It can save you and your loved one's life. And from the mayor's office in Fort Oglethorpe, please listen to what Glenn Davis has said. Fort Oglethorpe Fire Department is a class organization that saves you money on your insurance, but most important, it can save your or your family's life. Listen to what they say.